I'm excited to welcome Mitch Etchason, Product Manager, and James Slaby, Director of Cyber Protection at Scale Computing. Mitchell and James, it's great to have you on the event.
Hey, thanks for having us. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to it. So without any further ado, let's just dive right in. My name is Mitch Etchason. I'm a product manager here at Scale, along with James Slaby at Acronis, who's a partner. And we're going to speak a little bit about this new solution that we recently brought to market around backup and cyber protection. But first, I want to do a quick overview of Scale Computing for those folks on the call that may not already be aware with us. Scale Computing is a best-of-breed end-to-end infrastructure platform that includes our proprietary virtualization technology to run and back up business-critical workloads. So we launched in 2008, and then our current product, the basis of it, was brought to market in 2012. So we've been at this for a few years now and have the technology pre-dialed in and deliver a lot of benefits around a super easy to use, but more importantly, resilient platform for running those really important workloads, as well as quickly recovering those same workloads should there be a disaster when you deploy our platform along with the solutions from a company like Acronis. So then quickly I'll throw it over to James for a overview of Acronis as a vendor.
Thanks for that, Mitch. Just so if you're not familiar with Acronis, we're headquartered in Switzerland. We've also got an international headquarters in Singapore. Our basic product is a platform for MSPs to deliver a combination of cybersecurity and data protection services. So we go entirely through the channel. We've got about 50,000 MSP partners worldwide, 1,700 employees. We're probably doing about 300 million. I think that figure is a little dated. We're doing over 300 million in revenue a year. A lot of venture-backed funding, still private. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how our integration partner Scale has put together a very cool business continuity solution that combines what they do with what we do. And so we're excited to talk to you about that.
Awesome. Thanks, James. So then kind of going forward, Acronis and Scale have been partners for a few years now, originally around just integrating our infrastructure to work with their backup technology. But from the start, we really saw the synergy between the two vendors and understood that our integration could be deeper and we could use it in a more valuable way to customers, where it's not simply using the Scale Computing technology as a backup storage location, but actually leveraging our virtualization stack to deploy and recover VMs should there be disaster. And so, we came together and really saw the opportunity and built this business resilience system, as it's called, which is a fully integrated backup and disaster recovery appliance that can be deployed by MSPs as well as end users to support those business critical applications and really ensure that they minimize any potential downtime should there be a disaster. Because we already have both the hardware and the virtualization technology that is integrated with Acronis to recover those Acronis backups at a moment's notice. So to dive a little bit more specifically into what that looks like, it enables a hybrid cloud strategy more easily between the Scale Computing BRS and Acronis's native cloud disaster recovery suite of solutions. So when you have your on-premises infrastructure, whether that is VMware or Hyper-V or whatever you're supporting production workloads with today, you can back up those business critical applications using Acronis and then send those backups to a local business resilient system that is going to be at that same site, as well as Acronis's own disaster recovery cloud. And that gives you the best of both worlds when responding to different types of disasters and failures. If there is a site-wide failure, say there's an actual disaster that takes out a whole building or something, then it is really easy to spin up those workloads in Acronis's cloud. Whereas if it is a more localized issue, like a production host failure, then you can really rapidly get those same workloads spinning up on the local BRS appliance without pulling anything down from the cloud. So it is all about minimizing that potential amount of downtime. A little bit more about the device itself. It is a fully integrated hardware appliance, so it comes with our software pre-integrated on it with some really exciting benefits, particularly ease of management, scalable storage, rapid recovery, and affordability. We've already talked about the ability to rapidly recover VMs on the device. All of that is made incredibly easy, which is important in this use case because when there is a failure, the last thing you have the time to do is be going through knowledge base articles and understanding how to use the product. Plus, ours is a fully clusterable and expandable solution. So that means that you can start with one of our hardware nodes, and then as your storage requirements grow, as backups grow, you can add nodes and create a fully highly available cluster, which also minimizes downtime because you're getting added resiliency at the hardware level. From a deployment perspective, though, this is really a device that will be typically deployed locally at the same site as the production infrastructure to receive those backups and be able to virtualize those backups instantly for recovery. But I quickly want to get a little bit more technical on what those deployment looks like. There are two popular strategies that we see with both partners as well as end users, and that is the first, which would be the common deployment of I have my production environment where I'm running my apps, and I've deployed a local BRS system at that same site, and I'm sending both my backups, my Cronus backups, to that BRS, as well as setting those backups up for instantaneous virtualization in a DR scenario. And this is what most people approach the solution with, and this is kind of what they're thinking of. This would be similar to other appliance-based BCDR solutions in the market. What's exciting, though, is our integration is incredibly dynamic, which means that you don't have to send all of those backups to the BRS to have a local BRS ready to go for rapid DR, which means you could have your production environment, send the backups to a non-scale computing device like a NAS or a cloud, a remote cloud, but still deploy a local small BRS. Our smallest BRS is based on the Intel NUC, for example, which radically decreases the cost of entry. So deploy that smaller form factor hardware that's just sized to virtualize those critical applications for DR based on the non-scale backup files, which really means there's a ton of flexibility in how you can actually set up this solution while still allowing for local instantaneous DR. And then the end result is if you are a solution or an organization with several sites or a managed service provider, you can have all of these different production environments in the field at different sites, deploying a BRS at those sites to increase resiliency while using both Acronis's and Scale's cloud-based fleet management and solution management portal to manage it all. So not only do we provide the resilient, easy-to-use infrastructure to manage, locally at all sites, we also give the tools needed to manage a large number of those deployments as well, which is incredibly important for this use case, particularly when there are several sites at play. Lastly here, before handing it over to James to talk more specifically about the Acronis side of the solution, I will say one of the most common similar solutions deployed in the market today is Datto. They are an appliance-based solution and really, applaud themselves on that appliance-based approach. And there are a lot of benefits to going with, the Scale Acronis combined solution over Datto. Datto is a great solution. It's worked for a lot of customers, but Acronis has some really nifty benefits that I'm sure James will dive into, particularly around cybersecurity benefits. Plus now there's the appliance that Scale Computing is providing, so you have that checkbox and a production-ready package because, like I said, at the end of the day, our technology was built to support production workloads as well as to support spinning up business-critical workloads rapidly for DR, all in a cost-effective package that can be really beneficial over other solutions in the market. So with that, then I will pass it over to James for the Acronis side of things. James?
Thanks for that, Mitch. So what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of an overview of Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud, which is our piece of the Scale BRS solution here. I already kind of gave you the overview of Acronis here, so let me skip that. We really want to talk about how the integration of cybersecurity is a kind of a huge differentiator on our platform for MSPs. Not just backup and disaster recovery, but a whole host of cybersecurity and remote management features that lets you offer just a really nice comprehensive suite of IT services to your clients at a price that they can afford and that you can make nice margins on with plenty of upsell opportunities in more advanced services. We're also proud of how neatly and tightly integrated it is. So one agent for everything on the client endpoints and other workloads, one console in your operations center, hooks into your PSA, your RMM. This is the essential Acronis piece of the Scale solution. So when we talk about one protection plan, that means you can go into your client and offer them a package that includes backup, disaster recovery, both local in the Scale appliance and in the cloud, endpoint anti-malware, that includes both traditional signature-based AV, and then our AI-enabled anti-malware that can tackle zero-day threats, mainly focused on ransomware, because most ransomware iterations these days are going to be 0 days. We also have tools to automate vulnerability assessment and patch management so that you can close your client's known vulnerabilities faster, management of their existing Microsoft security environment, automation of asset inventory so new devices get automatically added to cyber protection plans. And these automation and integration aspects of it extend to every aspect of the console on your end, which we think makes your tech's jobs much easier. All right, the way we structure this is there's the kind of the core Acronis Cyber Protect Cloud package, which is frankly what most of our MSP partners start with, but we keep adding functionality to it as modular, optional upgrades. If you hear the term advanced pack, that's just what that is. It's an optional set of features that you can add and then use to cross-sell and upsell added cybersecurity and other data protection type services here. So, our big differentiator in the world of data protection is the range of cybersecurity services that we provide. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the data protection side of things today because those are the main enabling pieces of the Scale BRS solution. So continuous data protection is kind of one of the key ways that we make sure that no critical user data gets lost. When you create a protection plan, you can basically identify the critical applications by device that will get continuously backed up. So in the event of a malware attack or some other kind of critical failure, even the most recently made changes, new data that you've added, your client has added, gets restored. This is what lets the Scale BRS do kind of near instantaneous failover from the local appliance in the event of a disaster-worthy event. Integrated protection is basically a reflection of the fact that we've been doing backup for nearly 20 years. So we've built support for just about every server, every VM environment, every cloud out there, every database, every desktop, every mobile environment, as well as kind of a range of applications and databases, both on the premise and in the cloud. Just super comprehensive. Regardless of what environment your client has, we're likely to be able to protect it. Again, we're very focused on a turnkey solution for our partners so that you can choose whatever deployment model that you prefer, make it easy for you to jump into an Acronis-based solution with very low upfront risk. So a lot of our new partners start with the model that we host in our own cloud, which comes with deployment and onboarding services. That lets you basically stand up your solution really quickly without having to put any of your capital up at risk. Flexible deployment options are another kind of thing that make us very popular with our partners. However you want to control our platform and storage, we support that. Whether you want complete ownership and control, whether you want the white label, Acronis hosted approach, or something in between. And of course, the more control you assume, the better your margins get. We like to bring a similar flexibility to your storage options, so you can mix and match hyperscaler storage like Azure, Amazon, Google, other public clouds, your own private cloud if you operate that, or your client's premise-based storage. And that the ability to mix and match that is a real advantage for the scaled DRS solution as well. Integration is obviously important in the MSP environment, and that extends to what happens on the client end. So it's basically a single agent in every endpoint, single console, again, neatly integrated with the scale console. That keeps the footprint on your remote client low, and it simplifies your own tech's onboarding and operations ongoing. It simplifies policy creation, maintenance, and you can eliminate several vendors here, have fewer licenses and fewer vendors to have to manage. You'll hear Cronus brag a lot about our AI-enabled anti-malware. It's one of our real claims to fame in the cybersecurity space. This is the piece of anti-malware in the endpoint agent that is able to identify zero-day threats like ransomware by how they behave, not what they look like. And given that ransomware gangsters are kind of iterating new threats at the rate of 1,000 per day, signature-based AV is not going to be able to keep up with that, but we can actually detect, stop, and mitigate ransomware attacks in a way that's pretty much invisible to your clients and doesn't require any intervention on your part. You'll get an alert. You want to generate a report to show your client, we stopped this many ransomware attacks on you this month. But that's a big part of our secret sauce, including the fact that we have a super low false positive rate. Also got tools for vulnerability assessment and patch management, so that you can scan your client and identify unpatched known vulnerabilities for a wide range of their likely OSs and applications. This is an issue particularly SMBs struggle with. They can't keep up with the patch management treadmill. They leave known vulnerabilities open for months at a time, and that just exposes them to threats that they shouldn't have to deal with because the patches exist for them. We also like to tout the fact that we really tightly integrate data protection with cybersecurity, which lets us do things like scan backups in the cloud for malware and for vulnerabilities so that we can mitigate those or patch those and make sure that when you do have to restore from the backup, you're not introducing vulnerabilities or malware that was in the system when it was backed up. Data protection mapping basically lets you classify your client's data by level of criticality. That automatically tracks the protection status of all your client files so that you can quickly understand what needs to be backed up right away. And it also enables you to generate reports for compliance purposes if you've got a client in a regulated industry. Last thing that I want to talk about is off-host data processing. This is our ability to offload backup processing from your client's machines to other systems, whether local or in the cloud. This is a big part of what enables the instant recovery, where you can kind of immediately fail over to a virtualized copy of the end system in the event that the primary fails. I only have a few minutes here, so I've skipped over a lot of the kind of the richer features of a backup, but feel free to reach out to me directly if you want to hear more. With that, I'll kick it back to our moderator, David, and have Mitch join us again for Q&A.
Absolutely, yeah. We've got some great questions coming in. Great presentation, Mitch and James. While we take those questions, I'm just going to bring up this poll for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the scale computing? And of course, let's include Acronis as well, scale computing / Acronis solution. We do want to get your feedback on this. And if you have a question, now is the time to get it in. So let's see, first one, this is a good one here from Rob. He's asking, is Acronis agent-based?
Yeah,
So,
good question. I'll here,
go ahead,
go
Mitch,
first,
if you want.
James.
If you want to take that. All right. Yeah, the answer is yes for many things, but not for everything. So, for example, our VM capability is agentless, but just about every other type of endpoint is agent-based. So some of our cloud-based data protection will also be agentless.
Yeah, and then I'll jump in and perfect segue into the scale computing specific integration is agentless then. So that would be one of the ones where, let's say you're backing up a cluster from scale computing, it would be fully agentless where once you deploy the Acronis virtual appliance on the scale device, all of the virtual machines become aware to Acronis instantly without having to install anything in guest. And that's, the first point of integration between us. And then the second that I will kind of call out to be more specific is an integration around the Acronis feature called Convert to VM, which is what actually allows you to set up one of our BRS devices for DR, because you can take an Acronis backup file, whether that backup came from another scale device or from, VMware, let's say, and then you can take that backup file and point it towards a BRS device and pre-format it as a virtual machine that is just powered off on the BRS. So in a DR scenario, you simply just power on that VM that's up and running in seconds. So those are the two main feature integration points between Acronis and Scale.
Excellent. Very cool. And then let's see, here's another interesting question. They're wanting to know when it comes to sizing the BDR, is that what we called it?
BRS, yeah, it could be a BDR device.
BRS, sorry, got it wrong. BRS, when it comes to sizing that, is there a specific, is there a calculator, or how do you know what size to select for that appliance?
Yeah, good question. So we do have guidelines that we can run, anyone through after this call, particularly if they want to learn more. And I would encourage those interested to reach out and see a demo of the solution. But basically, it comes down to the use case of how you deployed it. Are you only sending backups to the BRS just as a backup target, or are you sending backups and setting it up for DR? And there is basically a recommended production data multiplier based on which one of those use cases are. So we have a built-in storage block engine in our product called Scribe for redundancy, right, to protect against failed drives, as well as also provide high availability when it's a clustered deployment. And it's equivalent to a RAID 10. So you can think of the storage usage the same way. And so it's either, 2 times multiplier for just storage, or if you're setting up for DR, a best practice would be 4 times multiplier of the total amount of production data that's being backed up. But like I said, we can get really flexible with the storage locations, right? So a great way to minimize the amount of storage required at the local site is to make use of something like a NAS or Acronis' cloud, because you can still do the convert to VM feature that I talked about earlier, reference those backups, instantiate them in a standby mode for rapid DR on a local BRS.
Yeah, Mitch, I was also impressed with how easy it is to expand the scale cluster so that if your customers' data storage requirements grow, it's very easy to add another appliance and have it automatically become part of it.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for calling that out, James. And that is a big differentiator between other similar backup and DR appliances in the market. And once again, I do want to hit on the head that when you cluster that device, you don't only get the benefits of growing the amount of storage available, but you get total high availability in that cluster. So if one of the BRS in the cluster goes down, if you'd already recovered some VMs on it, they'll automatically live migrate to other nodes in that cluster.
Very cool. And here's another good question. They want to know, what options does Acronis offer to get the backup data off-site?
What other options does Acronis offer to get the data off-site? Are you talking about storage options for storage targets for backup? I think I touched on this a little bit earlier. So it is any combination of hyperscalers, so Google, Amazon, Azure Cloud, Other public clouds. The Acronis cloud, we've got a global network of data centers that is used by a lot of our partners that don't want to operate their own clouds. And, we price that very attractively. Your own private cloud if you operate one, your client's private cloud if they operate one, or local storage. So the kind of the answer is whatever you need in whatever combination you need.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of options there. Very cool. Here's another interesting question. They want to know, what can we do to protect the backup data to ensure that it doesn't get infected with ransomware? Any recommendations there?
So I can take that. So this is something I think I touched on a little bit as well, and tout as one of the advantages of tightly integrating cybersecurity with data protection is our ability to scan backups in the cloud, both for known vulnerabilities, so we know that, oh, this is something that could be patched. Let's patch it in the image, in the backup image, so that when we restore, we don't have to do an operation locally to patch it. And then also for malware, the same way we do on live systems, so that if, for example, a system was infected with malware, but it hadn't been activated yet, this is a common tactic for malware, is once you take root on a system, you don't activate right away, you lie dormant for a little bit. And but so scanning for and remediating that malware can also be done in the cloud, so that when you do restore, you've got a vulnerability-free and a malware-free image that you're restoring from.
Excellent. Excellent. And let's see, there's another question they want to know. Is there an additional cost for the management software or advanced features in the Scale HC3 solution?
Yeah, so when you buy a BRF license, you get our full solution suite with that license. The only software restriction when buying a BRS node versus one of our standard production nodes would be a limitation of not supporting our own replication, because it is purpose-built and intended to be used with Acronis, right? But other than that, the Scale license that comes bundled with the hardware includes everything you would need. We are also have a fleet manager product that can be added on as well for those larger site deployments.
Nice. Nice. And it looks like we're starting to run out of time here, but I do want to ask this question. They want to know, if someone wants to purchase the Scale Cronus integrated solution, where would they go? Who would they talk to?
I think Scale is the first point of contact on that one, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you can reach out directly to, there's an email alias that is acronis@scalecomputing.com, which lets all of the relevant parties know instantly. Will proactively reach out and set up a demo. Or you can just go directly through a distributor that you may already be working with, like Climb Channel Solutions or Ingram, and they would be more than happy to help set you up with the right people. Plus, at the end of the day, I don't know if my email will go out as a part of this, but if anyone is interested in hearing more, and we can send out my email as a follow-up, just feel free to reach out directly to me as well, and we'll get both Scale and the right Acronis folks on the call to give a demo and just chat a little bit more about the solution.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, it sounds like a great solution that could help so many companies out there, so many different use cases. We talked a lot about MSPs, but just so many different use cases for so many different companies. It's been great having you on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Mitch and James. Great presentation.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, David. Thanks, Mitch.